Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Mediocre Minis. I know there's a lot of YouTube channels out there about painting miniatures for either wargaming or tabletop RPGs, and I kind of wanted to take a little bit different of an approach to this. So I've been painting minis for about 6 years. I am not a master painter. I am not an artist. I am not any of these things. I really just enjoy the painting of miniatures. And so what I'm kind of wanting to do here is maybe inspire some people who don't really know a whole lot about painting minis and find surfing through YouTube and finding nothing but professional painters making channels about how to paint their Warhammer army or not Steel Battalion, but any other large-scale combat. You know, there's a lot of guys out there that, shouldn't say guys, there's a lot of people out there that make this kind of content, but I kind of want to take a different approach to it. I want to kind of slow it down and just kind of have a relaxing time where you guys can watch me paint a mini, and we'll talk about the mini a little bit and some lore and stuff, and kind of go from there. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be, let me start with this and we'll talk about the color palette after. We're going to be painting this. It's a Mackie, and I thought this was fitting. It's from a setting called Battletech, and if you're familiar with Battletech, then you probably already know quite a bit about the Mackie, but if you're not, I can give you a brief synopsis of the setting in general, which Battletech is a hard cassette futurism sci-fi setting. The game came out in the 80s, and it's about several houses that are trying to, like I said, this is a brief synopsis. A long time ago in the setting, there was one faction known as the Star League, which was kind of like this unifying force that unified the 5 major houses, which would be House Steiner, House Carita, House Davion, House Liao, and House Merrick under one banner, which was the Terran Hegemony. And there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened, and anyway, there was a coup and a civil war, and anyway, this was the first battlemech that was made in that setting, and since then it's kind of grown into quite the amalgamation. The setting itself is pretty great. I love it. It's got a lot of political intrigue, good stories, good lore. The novels are great, and there's always something, you know, that you'll find out that you didn't quite know, just kind of thumbing around. I actually started playing Mech Warrior, which is the video game version of Battletech, when I was 7 years old. It was Mech Warrior Mercenaries, or Mech Warrior 2 Mercenaries. Fantastic game, and I gotta say I was hooked on it from then on. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play 3 or 4 like I would have wanted to, but I did play Mech Assault, which was, for a kid in middle school, pretty great, especially when I realized it was tied to the same lore as Mech Warrior. And anyway, so we're going to paint this guy here, and I did a little bit of research, and if you do paint or if you want to get into Battletech and you want to paint regiments or lances or whatever, there's a great website you can go to called Camo Specs, and they give you breakdowns of every livery for each house and battalion and all that stuff. So from what I could tell there was like a Star League defense was a olive drab color with a little bit of black, just maybe some black highlights. So we're gonna do something a little different here today. It's gonna kind of be slap chop, but not really. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this Army Painter War Paints Angel Green as a base coat, and then we're gonna follow that up with this Battletech Speed Paint House Davion or Davion Green, which is I like the speed paints and I don't like the speed paints. I don't believe this is a speed paint 2.0. I'm pretty sure the Battletech case came with 1. Or the original speed paints, or at least the one that I got. I'm sure they probably updated it by now. These are they're pretty great for doing a whole bunch of stuff real quick. I've seen some people that say it's not for beginners, and I have a buddy who I got into Battletech and he started painting, and he's pretty much using exclusively speed paints and he loves it to death. So we'll take that with a grain of salt, but I think we're going to use this as like our second coat. So what I'm going to do is we're going to paint this guy pretty much all green with the Angel Green, and then we're going to go over it with the Davion Green just to kind of cover up any spaces that I might have missed in my original base coat. And then we're going to use this broadsword silver for the barrels of the guns and the laser barrels and all that stuff. The heat sinks in the back. So that's kind of what I'm going with right now. Now, if you're new to painting, you can do. There's no wrong way to do it. I have used I'm going to use this poppet that I've confiscated from my daughter as my palette for this project. I have used paper plates in the past. I've used paper towels. Paper towels aren't the greatest because it'll suck the moisture out of the paint. But you can do it if you're quick. I've used cardboard boxes. The best thing I can tell you is if you're going to try to do it, use what you have available. It's not a hobby that you shouldn't have to sink a bunch of money into doing in order to do it, right? So when I started painting miniatures, actually the first thing that I did was I got a bunch of these. I went to Michael's and I got a bunch of these cheap Artist Loft paintbrushes, which I still have, obviously, as I pick this up and say, yeah, this is the one I got. And maybe this wasn't Artist Loft. Maybe this was a cheaper one that Michael's was selling when I got it at Michael's. If you don't know what Michael's is, it's a arts and crafts store. I don't know if it's regional or nationwide, so if you've never heard of it, that's why. So one thing I did with this is that I did pre-prep it. I did take a toothbrush and some dish soap and clean the model off to get any residue from the factory off the model. I let it dry, and then I've really been a big fan of this Pro Acryl brand for paints in general as of late. And so I use this Pro Acryl Prime in black for the base coat of primer, and then I dry brushed on the Pro Acryl white primer on top of that. And so it kind of looks like that when it's done. Again, I'm not the greatest painter. I'm not the greatest miniature painter. That's not the point of this. If I can inspire at least a few people to, take up the hobby, and just, I find it very calming. It's very peaceful for me to do. So hopefully you all can find that as well. This is just a piece of scrap board from a package that I got. It's not a self-healing mat or anything. You're also going to need your water and your brushes, and I have a bunch of brushes because once you get going on it, you just spend money on brushes. So without, I should probably grab some paper towels for drying my brushes because I got this paper towels. Alrighty, so This one here, you don't need a lot, just a little bit. And then, if you're not fancy and you don't have pipettes and you've taken some oral medication recently from your pharmacy, you'll probably have one of these. Fill that with water, and then you can squirt a couple drops in there to kind of thin that paint out. You don't want it too thin, but you definitely don't want it too thick. Let's see. I guess we'll find out. I think I made it too thin. Sorry, the lighting's not the greatest. This is kind of a trial run for the first episode. If it takes off and I like it, I might invest in some more, some better lighting and an actual phone stand, because I think I need to add a little more paint to this. Maybe not. You can see it's kind of starting to, well, not really. You can't really see jack from there. Yeah, see, the color's changed. Saying that first mini that I ever painted, it was a pack mule, and me and a couple buddies of mine, we were just starting to get into D&D, and so I got this pack mule, and me and my wife went to Michael's, and I grabbed some brushes and some tester paints and painted up a couple minis with tester's paints, because I didn't know any better, because where I live, the hobby scene wasn't super big at the time, and so well, I don't know if I'd say it's probably more than it was. And then when I started, I just gotta add a little more paint to this. Or at least I know a little bit more about it than when I started. I think I added way too much water to that. That's the nice thing about pipettes, they're a little bit easier to manage. That's better. I'm just gonna try and lightly apply some paint onto this and not give it that brush strokey look, which is kind of hard. Like I said, I'm not a master at this. There are people on here, and if you're watching this and you're saying, how come you didn't do this, how come you didn't do that, yeah, well, that's all well and good, but I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for me, and that's really what matters, right? As soon as a hobby starts becoming a job and you kind of have to take into consideration what everybody else says and thinks. What's the point in it, you know? If you're having a good time doing it, then have a good time doing it. And that's really all that matters. Oh, I don't have my lenses for those. Crap. Okay. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. I'm hoping this is staying in frame. I'm not really looking at the camera. I guess I could move a little bit more this way. Kind of paint down here. So, if you do start painting, you'll pick up a couple of tips and tricks, and you get better at it. Don't expect your first mini to be perfect the first one you do. You're never as good as you think you are in your head. That's something that took me a long time to figure out. You're never as good as you are in your head. And you know what? That's okay. You don't have to be as good as you are in your head. You just have to like what you're doing. And if you like what you're doing, you're going to have a good time. And as far as what everything, the supplies and everything that I'm using, you don't have to go out and buy one of these stands that I'm using. I like it. I know a lot of guys, they'll just use, or at least the guys that I've seen on the old YouTubes there, they use a cork and a couple pieces of putty to hold their piece on. So, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can go out and just buy one of these, and then it always is there. You can get different mounts for it if you're wanting to do some bigger pieces and stuff like that. It just kind of works out that way. I definitely thin this paint out too much. Like I said, I'm not a master at this, and that's okay. We're just having a good time together. Alright. So we've kind of got the legs done here. So we're going to move on to the upper body. Sorry about that. I had to take care of some stuff. Anyway, one thing is you don't want to get your paints too thick. That's definitely something that I learned. I wouldn't say early on. You don't want them too thick and too thin. And the more you paint, the more you'll kind of get to where that makes sense when you're dealing with paint on a palette. Whatever palette you use, I've also made palettes out of a Tupperware container. A little bit of you wet a paper towel, and then you wring it out and you put it on the bottom of the Tupperware container, and then you put a piece of parchment paper over it, like cooking parchment paper, and that makes a pretty good wet palette. The problem is if you forget about it and leave it on top of your fridge for 3 months, it molds. So we don't necessarily want that. So I did find this, I can't take credit for this poppet idea. I did see it, Tabletop Minions was the one who kind of turned me onto it, and I'd confiscated this poppet from my daughter. I shouldn't say confiscate. I asked her if she had a poppet that she wasn't using, and she gave me this one, and I said thank you. But when the paint dries, one, it's silicone, so it's easy to wash, but when the paint dries, you can just pop it up, and all the fun and exciting dry bits of paint just kind of pop up with it. So easy cleanup, which is what we're all about. Again, like I said, a hobby shouldn't be a job. A hobby should be a hobby. You should enjoy your hobbies. Hobbies are important. Hobbies are what keep you sane. I guess I should probably put my phone. Hang on. Let me do this, because all you're seeing is me moving my right hand. There, let's change perspective a little bit. There we go. Yeah, something like that. Oh. The only problem is my phone's plugged in now. The cable's right in front of my arm, which may or may not be a problem later. We'll see. Yeah, it's going to be an issue. So we're going to unplug it. There we go. There we go. So we're just going to slowly build up our paint. I did add in the interim where I was not recording this and I finished the legs, I did add more paint to my palette to kind of try and get rid of some of that water, because it was very watery. And it was kind of streaking a little bit. And we just kind of want a nice even coat. Even coat. Nice even coat. And that's okay. You know what? Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take you time. It's going to take you time to get good at it. And, you know, like I tell my children whenever they tell me they can't do it, you can do it. Just don't expect to get it right the first time. Everything takes a little bit of practice. You're not going to be the best at everything right out of the gate. Sure, I believe in a natural aptitude on some things, but that's definitely not everything. And this is definitely one of them. It takes a lot of practice. And it takes a little bit of patience too. And if you can figure out a good balance there, then you'll be A-okay. To do here is have something that looks halfway decent on the table when you go to play. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. One of the things I really like about Battletech is all the factions there are, all the different houses and all the periphery states like the Turian Concordat and Magistria Canopus. And you got all the clans. We don't talk about the clans. That's not true. Some of the clans are pretty cool. That's kind of starting to take shape now. It's not all black anymore. We're starting to get some of that green on there. It's a nice green. I like how this is coming out. And you know what? That's good. Nothing like painting something and hating how it comes out. Although, sometimes you learn from your mistakes. That's also important. It's a good life lesson. Take responsibility and learn from your mistakes. It's the people that never take responsibility and think they can't do any wrong. Those are the people you got to watch out for, right? Those are the people. I don't think any of us are those kind of people, right? Yeah. This is looking great. I know some people, they'll dip their brush and then they'll run it on their fingernail and stuff, and you do what makes you happy. I've kind of got this thin down. If I get too much on it, I'll rub it on my paper towel, and also and maybe it's bad form, I don't know. I kind of just work it around on the piece. Because you got a little bit of time, you can definitely kind of spread it around and get the thick parts kind of cleaned up. And like I said, maybe that's bad advice. That's just what I do. That's what I do. I also don't want this to take me 45 minutes, I don't want this to take 5 hours to paint one Mac. There's a lot of, I know Warhammer guys get pretty crazy about it. And Battletech guys can get pretty crazy about it too. They'll spend a lot of time making it as pretty as possible, and then they'll sit there and, critique what you do. Don't let them get to you. Don't let them get to you. If it's the first thing you've ever painted, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be rough around the edges, and that's okay. It's okay that it's rough around the edges. What matters is it's yours. Sorry, I'm getting old. I was moving it closer to my face so I could see it, and I'm not quite looking at the camera until I just looked over and saw that it wasn't anywhere near where it should have been. Just like this. This is a new thing I'm doing, and I'm sure I'm going to learn and do better the next time and the time after that. And you know what? That's okay. Get better. That's what matters. Getting better. Find something you love to do and get better at it. Get this plate in the back. I didn't really put any paint on, so let's put a little paint on it. There we go. Kind of use the brush to get any of the extra liquid out. I don't know. I think it's looking pretty good. I don't know what anybody else thinks about it, but you know what? That's okay. You can think whatever you want about it. The other thing, too, is you can paint this however you want to paint it. You don't have to paint it this green. You can do whatever you want. You can come up with your own mercenary company or some homebrew periphery state, and maybe whatever timeline you're playing in, you guys you found a Mackie or something, and you painted it up however they wanted. It doesn't have to be this. It can be whatever you want. That's what I like about Battletech. It's a cool setting where you can kind of homebrew your own stuff into it. Most people just do mercenary companies, though. They're a dime a dozen. Ooh, that was a little thick right there. Let's try and... There, up. Almost there, up. Let me dry the brush off a little bit. There, that's better-ish. There we go. A little thick there. My dad always used to say, doesn't matter how bad you fuck up, it's how fast you recover. And I think that's some pretty good advice. Just like the way these come to start to take shape when you're painting them. Not quite working with a canvas, but I couldn't really work with a canvas if I tried, so that's okay. And it's not that I haven't tried, I've tried a lot. I'm not good at drawing. I even put a lot of time into trying to learn how to draw, and it's still just, stick figures. I even tried it after I started doing this, just having a little more brush control and everything like that. I still can't do it. You know what? That's not my cup of tea. And that's okay. I can still enjoy it. Me and my wife, we go to this place called Painting with a Twist, and it's like a painting class kind of deal, and they let you bring some wine or some beer in or whatever, and you just have a good time painting for a little bit. And, me and her have a good time doing it. We've even taken the kids there a couple times. Doing a couple things, I think we're almost done with this coat here. So we'll let it dry for a few minutes. And then we'll get on with the speed paint here. And we'll see how that looks. Like I said, I haven't tried this yet. I haven't tried using a normal acrylic base paint. And then speed painting over it. I haven't tried it yet, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. And if I like it, I guess maybe that's what I'll do. One thing about painting these that always kind of irritates me is you'll spend all this time on it, and then by the time you're all said and done, you'll turn it over, and there'll be a spot that you're like, oh man, I didn't paint that one little piece. So don't worry yet. Don't take your time and what you do. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. The reason I'm leaving these back parts on, I think I'm going to paint those in a metallic-y color because I'm guessing this is the autocannon, and I'm pretty sure this is a PPC, or vice versa. It could go either way. I need to look at a sheet on it, and I don't have one handy. Nice, like that, yeah. We might throw some blacks on this too when we're all said and done. And then I know this is supposed to be a light, so we might put some yellow on there to make it look like it's on and it's illuminating what we're looking at, you know. Can't remember if I mentioned it already or not, but I fell in love with this setting when I was 7 years old. I had a neighbor, and he had MechWarrior 2 on DOS, and that was kind of my first experience with it, you know. And then I guess I was probably closer to 5 or 6 when he first found out about it. And then you know, we sharewared it, and I brought some floppy disks back to my house and tried putting it on our computer, and I couldn't get it to run, which I think was not the game's fault. I'm pretty sure it was my incompetence as a 5-year-old, and I couldn't figure out the UI for getting out and doing the first mission. And so I just thought it was busted, and, you know, I'd fire it up, and I'd listen to the Jade Falcon and the Clan Wolf introductions all the time, just because I thought they were cool as hell. And then when I was a little bit older, I found a copy of MechWarrior 2 Mercenaries at Costco, and convinced my mom to buy it for me. Yeah, and I spent a lot of time playing that game. Unfortunately, I never had a computer that was good enough to run MechWarrior 3 or 4, so I never got a chance to play those. But can't play MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries now, which is pretty great. I'm gonna have to do some hardware upgrades if I'm gonna be able to play it when the clans come out. So I guess we'll see what happens in that time. So bench. Ooh. Let that sit, paint on it for too long, and it's getting started to dry up at the base. That'll happen. You have to be careful. I probably should have washed the brush more than I did, but it's because I got distracted. Well, that's better. And then if you want to be a big nerd, you can buy something like this where, you know, ooh, look at the magnification. Or if you're an old guy and you like seeing what you're doing, that's a another thing you can do. So we're gonna shake up the Davian green here just for a little bit of extra highlight. We'll see how it goes. And the nice thing about speed paints is it does take kind of the guesswork out of having to figure out how much you need to thin your paint. Because it's already pretty thin. More like the consistency of like a wash almost. So we're just going to start kind of applying this to everywhere we've already painted, just to kind of give it a little more. I think it definitely richens it up. Although I can't really say for certain until it dries. So I guess we'll see what happens when it dries. But no, I'd be interested to see if any of you guys or any of you folks are interested in Battletech or Mech Warrior, and you know what your favorite mechs are, your favorite faction is. I can't say enough good things about the setting in itself. It's really cool, and it's something that I've really grown to appreciate the older I've gotten. There for a long time I didn't even realize Battletech and Mech Warrior were the same thing. Hell, I didn't even know there was a thing as Battletech. I just thought Mech Warrior was it. I didn't realize it was based off a tabletop game. But growing up in a rural area where there weren't a lot of, friendly local game stores and stuff like that, it's not too surprising that I didn't know anything about it. I think the first thing I really ever realized was a thing was Warhammer, and that was only because they used to advertise in Boys Life, which was the Boy Scout magazine, and they were always trying to sucker you out of your Boy Scout bucks for their. Well, I think back then the minis were a lot cheaper, but they still weren't cheap. Trying to get you out of your Boy Scout bucks that were hard-earned from selling popcorn, It's amazing, if you don't really know what, I'm liking this. You're not really 100% on it, when you're younger, and then you get older and you realize, like, oh, hey, yeah, that's a thing, and this is what it is. There's quite a few things like that as I've grown older that, yeah. Sorry, it's springtime, so I'm starting to get a little stuffy. I got really bad hay fever, which is ironic because we put up hay. I'm also allergic to pretty much anything with hair, dogs, cats, all that. And in my household, we have 3 cats and 1 dog. I never used to be allergic to it until I was about 16 years old, and then one day I woke up and went out to brush the mules, and bam, I had a stuffy nose, and I felt horrible. And then I was never allergic to hay until I got a grass seed stuck in my eye one day, and it wasn't fun. I went blind for about a day. It was great. It was great. So, oh yeah, I really like this. This looks great. At least I think it looks great. I hope you think it looks great too. Granted, I can't really tell how much you can tell or see. Maybe when I'm all said and done, I'll put it down and try and get some light on it and show you what it actually looks like. Just doing this at the kitchen table with the light on overhead so I can see what I'm doing. You might not be able to. But like I said, I'm enjoying this, so maybe I'll invest in a stand and some better lighting or something. Try and figure something out so it's not all dark and dreary on your end. It's kind of dark and dreary on my end too. I shouldn't pretend that it's not, because it kind of is. It just depends on where I'm looking and where I'm painting and the angle of the MIDI and all that stuff. So. But I think it's starting to take shape. It's starting to look really good. I like the way it's looking. Kind of sort of slap choppy. That's okay. I actually kind of enjoy on some things, and maybe it's just not that I've really taken my time with learning how to do slap chops the right way. But slap chop's a pretty accessible technique for beginners, I think. I've done it a couple times, and I've kind of liked the way it's come out, but I know there's people that can do it way better than I can. Alright, we'll let the speed paint dry off. We'll wash our brush off. Take a sip of our strain your brew. Alright, now then. Let's see here. In here somewhere. Aha, black wash. We'll wash this one when all said and done. I think we're going to use this bright jade for the cockpit. And then I've got this coal black. So we'll give this a minute. It's going to dry off. And then I've got some golden yellow we'll use for the light. We'll see how that goes. And we'll toss in some bright ivory as well. I do really like this Pro Acryl line of paint. I've used it on several minis. I've really liked the way that they've come out. There's a lot of pigment in here, and you can thin it out. Like if I was using this, if if this was a pro acrylic and I put that much water in it, I don't think I would have been having as many issues. And again, this is just a normal. This is the original OG Army Painter war paints. It's not the Fanatics. I haven't tried those out, but from what I can tell and what I've seen, those look pretty fantastic for paints. Army Painter's really been stepping up their game. Alright. Now then, let's do a little bit of coal black. I don't need very much. Maybe just a drop or two. 1, 2. There we go. There we go. We'll just think about these pro acrylics. You gotta best if you clean the tip, but yeah. I'll just put a little bit of water on my brush, and we'll mix that in with the black. And then get rid of that excess paint there, and we'll just start applying it to the canopy. I don't really know if you can see how smooth and it just goes on so good. That stuff is great. I love it. I was kind of leery about it for a little bit when it first came out, and then I said, you know what, let's try a pot of that. And well, I shouldn't even say that. I bought that black primer, and I bought that and used it, and I was like, holy crap, we need to try that paint. And I haven't really looked back since then. The only reason I have that Army Painter stuff is because I had that before I tried that stuff out. But, you know, just the coverage and everything, it's great. So I have a little bit of that speed paint in one of the heat sinks on this Mackie here. I'm just trying to kind of pull a little bit of it out with the brush. Can't get it all, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of this bright jade, probably just 1 drop. You can hear it too. In comparison to this angel green. You can hear the ball, you can't hear the paint. This stuff is pretty thin. One little drop. Boop. One little drop. And there's so much pigment in this stuff, it's unbelievable. A little bit of water on the brush. We'll mix that in with the paint. We'll get rid of the extra. I'm thinking we're gonna start here on this end. We're just gonna kind of work it back and forth a little bit. I've never been really good at painting cockpits. There are some guys out there that can do one hell of a cockpit, and I haven't quite figured out the best way to do it yet. I'm going to take a little black here and mix that in. A little bit more of this. Gonna mix it in with the black a little bit. Now I'll have to go over that with a little bit of speed paint. Or a little bit more of that angel green. Either or. So I'm trying to mix it to where it looks like the sun's reflecting off the canopy. It's not the easiest thing to do. At least I've found it's not the easiest thing to do. Oh, that doesn't look half bad. Like that. We're going to have to go in there and kind of redo that bottom part of the canopy, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. Sorry, I keep moving what I'm trying to do here. So let's go up to the top part here, and we'll put a little bit of black right here, some wet black, and just kind of go over what we already painted. We'll wash the brush off, and then we'll grab some of this, and we'll start over here and kind of start pulling it this way. You know what? That's probably the best cockpit glass I've done so far. I think we might add a little bit more down here, though. I feel like it would probably reflect the most on the bottom. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just second guessing myself. I'm not sure. And that's okay. I really like that, actually. I think that looks pretty dang good, in my opinion. And you know what? It's my mini. And my opinion's the only one that matters. So, the other cool thing you can do with this to kind of get some of this bright ivory, mix it up. We'll put a little drop in there. And we'll just take a little itsy bitsy tiny little piece. And we'll just doop, doop. Wow. I think I finally figured it out. That looks pretty friggin' good. At least to me it does. Alright. I like it. We'll take some of this angel green and we'll kind of come back in here where we kind of messed up and got some of that canopy on the base coat. Alright. Now then, you can buy some pretty crazy brushes out there. This is a Wargamer Psycho. I do really like the Army Painter brushes. They're, as far as what price point and all that, I really like them. So we're just going to kind of come in here and we're going to paint over this gray part that we left here because I wanted to do it, which was probably a stupid call, but you know what? That's okay. I wanted to do it after I painted the canopy, just in case, because I thought it would be easier to do the detail work on it after the canopy was done. And as soon as I said that, I got some green on my canopy. Oh, that's alright. It's not too bad. A little bit of touch-up paint here and there, and we'll be right as rain. patience comes in, right? One thing about painting on a canvas versus painting on this is there's a good chance you're going to have to go back through and touch up an area that you just paint it over, you know? No. Well, this has taken quite a bit longer than I anticipated, but that's okay. I can edit it down a little bit. Places where I'm not talking, you know, that's alright. Alright. I think I need a little bit more green on this leg here. Take your time. Remember, it's not a race. Okay. We'll be right back. Alrighty. It's surprising that this was the lightest area when I primed it, and it's now probably the darkest part of the Mini, which means that my sunlight's a little weird on my canopy, but that's okay. So this is what it looks like so far. Now we're going to do all the metal highlights on the heat sinks, and then we'll finish it up with the yellow and the light bulb. Which I think what we're going to do right quick is we're going to take a little bit of this black and we're going to apply it to the outside of the bulb. And then when we're ready to paint it, we'll put a little bit of yellow and white in there. And that'll be good to go. Alright, and we're going to use the speed paint, Broadsword Silver. I do have, if you buy the Battletech paint, it does come with, if I can get it out of the thing, actuator metal, which is gunmetal. It's literally gunmetal. They packaged up a thing of speed paints and named it Battletech themed things. But I kind of think the Broadsword Silver would be good on this one. So we'll mix it up. I like it because it's kind of it's like a darker metallic. The actuator is very, it's very bright. And I kind of think that the weapons on a battlemech would be kind of dull. Possibly even different colored. I do really love the speed paint metallics. They are fantastic. They're easy to apply. They look really well. They look really good. All in all, I think that's really the star of the speed paints for me is the metallics. Yeah, the more and more I think about it, the more and more this one with the octagonal top on it, that's the PVC. Probably cut for cooling. So we'll put a little bit of something on there to indicate that, yeah, this is definitely a energy weapon. Alright. And then we have our low torso mounted medium lasers. Sorry. I'd like to get a tripod because I'm filming this on my phone. But I don't know. We'll see how this goes. And if I get a tripod, then I get a tripod. But until then, my phone on a Clorox wipe container will do fine. definition of the ridges. Feel like having let's just say this beer in the back's probably the coil that gets the PPC going, so with how hot those get, I would assume paint would not stick, so I think having the metal here in the back is a good call. At least that's how I feel about it. I could be wrong. I'm not the know-all end-all on Battletech. I just really like it. I think it's great. Alright, so we got the heat sink here. Let's kind of pull a little bit out of the brush here, and then we'll lightly apply some of that metal to the heat sinks. Get a little bit more here. Yeah. Ooh, that was too much. That was way too much paint. That's okay. It's not how bad you fuck up, it's how fast you recover. You know what, just to kind of accent it, we'll take this little plate here in the back and we'll paint this little thing silver. I don't know if it's a heat sink or not, but it's gonna have this silver plate in the back, I've decided. This plate is gonna be metallic. Kind of looks like it might be a heat sink or something. It's got some fins and stuff in it, so that's what that looks like when it's all done. Now if I really wanted to, I could go in here and I could try my best to put some little, you know what, we're gonna do it, but we're not gonna use this brush. We're gonna use a little, we're gonna go back to the Psycho, and we're gonna apply a little bit of this silver on these knee gears here. It looks like there might be a little bit in the back here. Well, I gotta say, I'm really liking how this looks. Take a little bit more of this silver here. We're gonna put it in here. Sponge out the excess because that was a little wet when I put it in. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a front-facing heatsink, and if it is, that's definitely an engineering flaw. I don't know what this is supposed to be. I'm not sure. To me, it looks like a heatsink. It doesn't look like any weapon I've ever seen. So I'm going to go with it's a heatsink. Alright, now then, time for the light. And I think at that point, oh wait, we can put a little bit of blue on the PPC there, and other than that, I think we are good to go, and that is one mini painted. Yeah, let's do that real quick. We got PPC blue, Battletech. This is also referred to as foiled shield blue. Mix it up real good because it's kind of been sitting in my tray for a while. There we go. Now then, take this and we will lightly do that. And we'll come in here and we'll do that. And we'll do that. Yeah, I like it. All right, now then, take a little bit of this golden yellow, just a drop. We don't need much. We do not need much. Sorry, I'm a brush licker. That is one thing that I do. I've always done it. I'll just kind of lightly apply a coat of the yellow inside the light. It's gonna look something like that. Sorry, like that. I'm gonna do another coat, and then I'm gonna put some white on it as well. After I take a drink of my strange brew. That's probably more than enough. The thing about yellow is very hard to apply. So is white. When it comes to these miniature paints, it doesn't have the staying power as a lot of the other colors does. Or do. Or however you want to say it. Yeah, then I did that, and then I tried to clean it up, and I pulled all the paint out. So we're going to go back in here and just apply a little bit more. Then we'll let that sit for a minute. I'm going to take a little tiny itty bitty dot of that ivory when that dries, and just put a little bit on there to signify that it's on. And that will, other than the basing, that'll be the end of the Mackie. I'm very happy with how it came out. like I said, that's the best canopy I've ever done. So, cheers to me. Sorry, I don't know if that actually helps or not. I like to think it does. We'll just put a little bit of white right about there. Because you know what? I have decided that this model is standing at dusk, and it's just that part of dusk that makes it, just enough that the light needs to be on so it doesn't hit any deer coming down the road. But that will do it, I do believe. So let's check it out. Is it perfect? No. Does it have to be? No. I just have to like it. And I hope you enjoyed watching me paint it. Because when it comes down to your hobbies, if it becomes more like work, then it's no longer a hobby. And there we go. Tabletop ready, other than the basing, which I'm not going to do right now because it is really late. So, I hope you enjoyed. Happy hobbying.